But we're starting today by discussing Monday's top headlines with Gyles Brandreth and Camilla Tominey.
Yeah, and we're going to start by paying tribute to an incredible man. You will have been hearing tributes to him across all of the morning shows this morning and yesterday, opening your newspapers or online. Broadcasting legend, of course. Great colleague and a wonderful friend of mine, John Stapleton, sadly passed away yesterday at the age of 79. He'd been battling with Parkinson's and other conditions as well. Like many in the studios here at ITV Daytime, I had the pleasure of working alongside John for many years, starting at GMTV, where he certainly was an incredible mentor, a fantastic person to go to for advice and guidance, but mostly he just became a brilliant friend. He will be so sadly missed and greatly remembered as a wonderful journalist, generosity of time and consideration. He always had a calmness about being around John, no matter what he was doing in the storm and the chaos of live news, whether he was in a war zone, whether he was fronting some election coverage. While the news was breaking, John was always so calm. It was incredible to be around, and it was just a pleasure to know him.
Absolutely. Gyles, you've got the jumper on
I'm wearing my TVAM jumper because that's how I first got to know John 40 years ago. And I think what's interesting about him is that he was a really decent person. That's why we're remembering him with great affection and respect, because you could trust him. He was an honest person. He was totally straightforward. He was with you there and with you there, always the same person. He was fundamentally serious, though, which I think is quite interesting, because in a world like we're in, we do lots of fun things. And what I like about this show, certainly was true, I learned from John, is take the fun things in a fun way, but take the serious things seriously. And he was a real journalist. Getting all that right was important.
Yes, I was going to say that because we forget, because he was very popular on daytime TV and he was very much a kind of household name and somebody that viewers could feel comfortable with. I mean, you mentioned it there, Ben. There are a few journalists that you can really say they're such a safe pair of hands that you can send them to Iraq, but equally you can go and send them to cover somebody's golden wedding anniversary, okay? And that was John. And I think from a viewership point of view, if you saw him, and it was the same for his late wife, Lynn Foldswood, these are serious journalists. They're wanting to raise an awareness of really important issues for the audience. But the key focus the whole time is trying to speak up on behalf of people and tell their stories. And that's why figures like... And John Stapleton, he wasn't... You know, didn't want a big fanfare. It wasn't a massive ego. You know, it wasn't all done with a hysterical flourish. That was the point of the man. If he covered the news, you'd listen and know that what he was saying was to be trusted, and that's so important.
It wasn't about him, it was about the story and about the viewer, which was interesting.
There's some magic as well that lots of people have contacted me since yesterday with the chemistry between him and Penny Smith. Who did the news hour for such a long time. That's when I first got to work with both of them. And the two of them together were such a wonderful balance of Penny's sort of madness and joy and enthusiasm and energy, and John's calm exterior. And she'd have all this boundless energy, and every now and again he'd just raise an eyebrow. And I was talking to Penny about this yesterday. And they were it was such magic watching the two of them together, and they were still great friends. And they remained great friends for many years. And we were lucky enough, we had a group of us from GMTV used to get together and try and meet up and sort of reminisce. And just a few weeks ago, there was 4 or 5 of us got together. Ranveer was there, and we've got John, you could see, and Kiffy and Owen. And we'd worked together. So I started working there since 2000. Ranveer came in a little bit later on, but John was the consistent presence in all of that. And we had lunch together. And there was nothing he loved more than being around everybody, telling stories, having a laugh, and having a glass of wine as well. You know, he was a man that could drink and enjoyed that part of just that being connection. And there's something else that I wanted to share, because as soon as I heard, I contacted the guys here and said, there's some amazing footage of all of us at GMTV dressed as the Osmonds. They misheard and were trying to find us dressed as the Osborns. So that caused confusion. But the point you make, John was so brilliant. He took the job seriously, but he didn't take himself seriously. And we all dressed up on Fiona's last day, because she was a massive Donny Osmond fan, and the rest of us dressed up as the Osmonds as a tribute to her. This is us as the Osmonds. You've got Kate, you've got Richard Arnold, Andrew Castle, you've got me, you've got Penny, and you've got John. Just enjoy this little moment of us all. This was a tribute to Fiona.
Don't let me for fun, girl. Let me be the one.
And there is such magic in that.
Yes.
And Darren, who's here with us on camera 4, has known John for many years as well, was sharing so many stories. I think he shot that as well. And there's so many people that have amazing memories and stories about working with John and having an experience of being around John and have learnt so much from John. It was such a privilege to know who he was.
It was on telly for such a long time.
Yeah.
And it's all very well viewing it from the actual telly and what you're seeing, but people don't understand what goes on behind. And for others coming into the industry like you know, not necessarily au fait with that journalistic medium, to ask people who are veterans for advice and actually get good advice, goodness me, that's valuable.
Absolutely. And what his son wrote yesterday as well.
Yeah, Nick.
Also a journalist?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely beautiful. We've got some comments actually from the viewers too. Catherine says, a wonderful, wonderful man. Him and his wife did so much for so many people. Sad to hear this. My thoughts with his family and friends. Helen says, how very sad. He was a true gentleman and a joy to watch on the television. Marion says, I grew up with John on TV. He was always a kind gentleman. His family should be very proud of his legacy. And
This one from
Alice
Alice.
Beer,
This
We
is
just
this-
saw
that
Alice.
was what I
She
was
just
just-
Alice
flashed
just
up.
popped. She would have worked with John, and this is what Alice has said in speech marks. Shall we have another one? Would so love another cheeky glass of wine with you, John. Proud to call you a colleague, a friend, and honoured to have learnt from him. And we did all learn. So, to your point, Camilla, I came into GMTV with relatively little experience from the world of journalism, and I was surrounded by brilliant journalists, and John was just typified all of those things. And the time and the patience he had with anybody that wanted to ask him questions. So many people have put testimony down of him contacting them saying, I saw your report, I thought it was fantastic, and then engage in a conversation with them. And then more later in life, I was saying to Kat beforehand, we lived in a similar sort of area, and John was such an invaluable source of advice for schooling for Sam and Jack. They followed Nick to the same schools off the back of John's advice of what Nick had done and what they'd experienced, he and Lynn had decided to do. And as you rightly put, you trust somebody with advice for what you're going to do with your kids implicitly. I can't hold John in higher esteem.
Yeah, they're the most precious thing in your life. So the fact that you went to him for that advice goes to show what you think.
Yeah, and I think Nick, massive Manchester City fan, huge Manchester fan. I used to often bump into him at West Ham, and I'd see him, he'd be at the pub round the corner, keeping a low profile because he's obviously City fan in the East End of London. And Manchester City actually tweeted about him yesterday. Saddened to learn that John Stapleton has passed away at the age of 79. He was a passionate City supporter, regular at the stadium. He will be missed. And I think Nick had said that will have absolutely made him up. The fact that City, his club, that he cut him in half and he was sky blue because he loved them so much that they took the time to remember him as well was a wonderful tribute.
Yeah.
He will be so, so sadly missed and so fondly remembered. So we're thinking about Nick and Lise, his wife, and all of the family as well. Lise's up there with Lynn laughing down at us now. Should we get a few more stories? Have we still got time?
Yeah, we've got time. Yeah.
Okay.
Let's talk about the reports in the papers today that the King has made it clear that Prince Harry cannot have a half-in, half-out royal role.
Well, that's not news.
No.
That's what was made clear by the late Queen Elizabeth II
at
the time all this happened. You can't be one thing and another thing. You're either doing it or you're not doing it. But what we hope to see, and we saw that meeting the other day between the King and his younger son, they had tea together. We hope it went well. And the good news is we haven't heard anything about it. And nobody has leaked what went on between them. So I think that bodes well for the future. You just want a normal family relationship. I come from a family where two of my sisters, no longer with us, a few years older than me, didn't speak to one another for 30 years. And by the end of it, we'd all forgotten what was the initial row was about.
Yes.
I mean, you can't believe it. And one of them, actually, after about 10 years, one Christmas, I remember her, they still met occasionally, saying to the other across the kitchen table, come on, we can't go on like this. And the other one didn't respond. So they went on not talking. And you can get into you can lock yourselves into that. And so both of them sadly died without a real reconciliation.
Oh, that's a shame.
The point I'm making is this is not unique.
Yes.
But what one wants to see is it not happening to this family.
The dialogue is sort of turning, because there's been this reconciliation between him and the King, then between him and William, is that on the cards? Just notwithstanding having any kind of quasi-royal role, which I just think is not on the table at all. I got a load of flack because I wrote a piece, and as everyone knows, I've done extensive reporting on Megxit and everything in between, and I think that the Sussexes have behaved appallingly. However, we've just been reflecting on John's life there, and we're going to be speaking in a moment later in the show about Charlie Kirk's widow and sort of like the hand of forgiveness and friendship. Life is too short. I mean, for the bearing of grudges. We can completely understand the hurt and upset that's been caused, but, you know, the King hasn't been well. I do sometimes wonder if this goes on for years and years and decades, whether it will benefit either of these two royal brothers in the long run. And I'm not saying it's not justified why Prince William and indeed Catherine are deeply, deeply hurt by their behaviour. Oprah, Netflix, Spare, just absolutely hideous. But in the long run, if people... I feel like the bearing of grudges does eat people up, and forgiveness is a bit more freeing.
Yeah, and also during his recent trip to Britain, where Harry made that big donation as well, I think he received a much warmer welcome than before.
I think he's trying to redeem himself in a way. And and the public can all wade in with, well, I wouldn't forgive it. Maybe that's right, but I just think for people's own psyche, I think... to be on terms like that, your sisters will not have been benefited from being on bad terms.
Not at all.
And the extended family either, though. It must have been difficult for all of you.
It's difficult for everybody, you know. There were family weddings and things where two sides didn't... But this is not unusual.
No.
Because I've seen it. I've seen it in lots of families and in history, and it would be sad to see it in this case. Because they're so much in the public eye. We want everyone to kiss and make up, don't we? That's what we want.
And to your point, Camilla, you know, as we're remembering John so fondly, thank you for all your amazing comments about him. We'll try and share a few more because he really was very special. Life is so short and so fragile. Thank you for the time being. We're discussing more of Monday's headlines with Gyles and Camilla later on, including the employee who's suing her boss after he told her that it was too early to put a Christmas tree in the office. It can't possibly be
never too early.
I'm with Gyles.
It's always too early.
Too early. Don't go
What are
too
you talking
soon.
about?
And he's the loving son who can still speak to his mum on the phone.
Thanks for visiting our This Morning YouTube channel. We upload tons of new content every single day. So hit the subscribe button, like all the videos, and don't miss out. We'll see you in the morning.